Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Wicked Wardrobe from Osborne House. Holly Arnold had always been drawn to the macabre. As a budding fashion designer with a penchant for the dark and mysterious, she often found inspiration in the strangest places. Her latest muse was Osborne House, the royal residence on the Isle of Wight. It was during a private tour of the house, renowned for its Victorian grandeur and eerie history, that Holly stumbled upon an old wardrobe hidden in a forgotten corner of the attic. The ornate, dust-covered piece of furniture seemed out of place among the otherwise meticulously maintained relics of the past. The wardrobe was massive, carved from dark wood and adorned with intricate patterns that depicted scenes from old Victorian folklore. The figures were twisted and grotesque, almost alive in their intensity. Holly felt an inexplicable pull towards it. She cautiously opened the creaking doors to find a collection of clothing that seemed to belong to another era. Each piece was exquisite, crafted with a level of detail and care that was rarely seen in modern fashion. Holly's eyes widened with excitement as she carefully examined each garment. She immediately envisioned a new collection, one that would draw heavily from these haunting designs. With her sketchbook in hand, she began to draw, letting the dark color of the clothes guide her creativity. Unbeknownst to her, each stroke of her pencil was setting off a chain of events that would soon spiral out of control. Back in her London studio, Holly worked tirelessly to bring her vision to life. The Wicked Wardrobe collection, as she had dubbed it, quickly gained traction. Fashion enthusiasts and critics alike were captivated by the haunting elegance of the garments. The clothes seemed to possess a life of their own, a quality that Holly attributed to her inspiration from Osborne House. As the collection gained popularity, strange occurrences began to unfold. Models who wore the pieces reported unsettling experiences. Amelia, one of Holly's favorite models, was the first to feel the effects. During a photo shoot, she wore a Victorian gown with intricate lacework that seemed to whisper against her skin. That night, Amelia was plagued by vivid nightmares of being chased through dark, fog-laden woods by shadowy figures. She woke up screaming, her heart pounding in her chest. Dismissing it as a one-time occurrence, Amelia continued to work with the collection. But the nightmares persisted, growing more intense with each passing night. Other models began to experience similar horrors. They spoke of ghostly apparitions, whispers in the dark, and an overwhelming sense of dread. The clothes seemed to cling to their bodies, as if they were alive, as if they were feeding off their fear. Word of the strange occurrences reached Holly, but she was too engrossed in her success to pay it much heed. The fashion world was buzzing with excitement over the Wicked Wardrobe collection, and Holly was basking in the glory of her achievements. It wasn't until she experienced something herself that she began to question what she had unleashed. One night, while working late in her studio, Holly decided to try on a piece from the collection, a beautifully dark, embroidered dress that had always captivated her. As she stood before the mirror, admiring the way the fabric clung to her form, a chill ran down her spine. The reflection in the mirror began to distort, the room behind her warping and twisting into a nightmare landscape. Holly blinked, trying to shake off the vision, but it only grew more vivid. The walls of her studio melted away, replaced by the shadowy halls of Osborne House. She was no longer alone. Figures dressed in Victorian garb emerged from the darkness, their eyes hollow and faces twisted in eternal agony. They moved towards her, their hands outstretched, reaching for her. Panicking, Holly tried to tear the dress off, but it clung to her like a second skin. She could feel it tightening around her, constricting her movements and suffocating her. The ghosts of Osborne House were closing in, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. They spoke of curses and dark rituals, of souls trapped in the fabric of the garments. Desperate, Holly fled her studio, running through the darkened streets of London. The city seemed to shift around her, the shadows growing longer and more menacing. She could hear the whispers following her, feel the cold breath of the spirits on her neck. No matter how fast she ran, she couldn't escape the curse she had unwittingly unleashed. In her desperation, Holly sought out the help of a local historian who specialized in Victorian folklore. Dr. Eliza Merrick was skeptical at first, but the terror in Holly's eyes convinced her to listen. Holly recounted the tale of the wardrobe, the strange occurrences, and the haunting visions. Eliza's face grew pale as she realized the gravity of the situation. Osborne House has a dark history, Eliza explained. There are tales of dark rituals conducted by members of the aristocracy using ancient curses to bind their enemies. The wardrobe you found, it must have been part of those rituals. The clothes are cursed, trapping the souls of those who once wore them. Holly's heart sank. She had unwittingly brought these curses into the present, and now they were wreaking havoc on anyone who came into contact with her collection. Eliza suggested that the only way to break the curse was to return the garments to Osborne House and perform a cleansing ritual. Together, they made the journey back to the Isle of Wight, to the place where it had all begun. As they approached Osborne House, the air grew thick with a palpable sense of foreboding. Holly could feel the eyes of the spirits upon her, watching, waiting. They entered the house under the cover of darkness, making their way to the attic where the wardrobe awaited. Eliza prepared the ritual, drawing upon ancient texts and her knowledge of Victorian folklore. Holly stood before the wardrobe, the cursed garments in her hands. The air grew colder, the whispers more insistent. As Eliza began to chant, the spirits emerged from the shadows, their forms flickering like candle flames. Holly placed the garments back into the wardrobe, her hands trembling. The spirits surged forward, their faces contorted with rage and sorrow. But as Eliza's chant grew louder, the spirits began to recede, drawn back into the fabric from whence they came. The wardrobe door slammed shut, sealing the curses within. The house grew silent, the oppressive weight lifting from Holly's chest. She and Eliza stood in the attic, the only sound the ragged breaths of their relief. The curse had been broken, but Holly knew she would never forget the horrors she had unleashed. She left Osborne House with a newfound respect for the dark powers that lurked within the shadows of history. The wicked wardrobe collection was quietly withdrawn, and Holly returned to her studio, forever changed by the experience. She continued to design, but her work took on a new tone, one that reflected the light and beauty of the world, rather than the darkness. And though she never spoke of it again, she knew that the spirits of Osborne House would remain with her, a constant reminder of the deadly price of her ambition. Holly's career, now shadowed by the events at Osborne House, took an unexpected turn. She began to delve into historical research, blending the elegance of the past with modern design, but always with a deep respect for the stories and lives intertwined with each piece of inspiration. The fashion world watched in awe as her collection shifted from darkly enchanting to ethereally beautiful, each piece a tribute to the resilience of the human spirit rather than a flirtation with the supernatural. One evening, months after the Osborne House incident, Holly received an anonymous package at her studio. Inside was an old, leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. The note accompanying it was brief: "For your protection, E.M." She immediately recognized the initials as Dr. Eliza Merrick's. With a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, Holly began to read. The journal detailed the life of a Victorian seamstress named Lydia Hawthorne, who had been employed at Osborne House in the late 1800s. Lydia's entries were filled with accounts of her work, but as Holly read on, a darker narrative emerged. Lydia had been coerced into creating garments for a secret society within the aristocracy, a group that practiced dark rituals and sought to harness the power of ancient curses. Holly's heart raced as she discovered that Lydia had been the one to craft the original garments that had inspired her wicked wardrobe collection. The seamstress had infused each piece with the anguish of her situation, inadvertently cursing them with her pain and despair. The final entry in the journal was a desperate plea to whoever finds this: beware the cursed threads, destroy them, lest they ensnare more souls. Determined to honor Lydia's plea, Holly contacted Eliza. Together, they devised a plan to destroy the cursed garments once and for all. Returning to Osborne House under the guise of a historical research project, they gained access to the attic where the wardrobe stood. The house, though still imposing, seemed less sinister than before, as if acknowledging their purpose. Eliza set up a ritual space, drawing protective symbols around the wardrobe. Holly retrieved the garments, each piece feeling heavier with the knowledge of Lydia's suffering. As Eliza began the incantations, Holly threw the garments into a fire they had built in a metal brazier. The flames roared to life, consuming the fabric and releasing a cacophony of ghostly wails. The air grew thick with smoke and the scent of burning cloth, but Holly and Eliza stood firm. The ritual took hours, the fire burning with an unnatural intensity. As the last of the garments turned to ash, a sudden, profound silence fell over the attic. Holly felt a sense of peace wash over her, as if Lydia's spirit had finally been freed. Exhausted but relieved, Holly and Eliza left Osborne House, the remnants of the cursed garments reduced to nothing but ashes. They scattered the ashes in the sea, ensuring that the curse could never be reconstituted. As they watched the waves carry away the last traces of the dark history, Holly felt a deep sense of closure. Back in her studio, Holly immersed herself in her work with renewed vigor. Her next collection, Ethereal Echoes, was a celebration of life and light, inspired by the resilience of the human spirit. Each piece was crafted with meticulous care, infused with positive energy and blessings for those who wore them. The fashion world embraced Holly's transformation. Her designs became symbols of hope and renewal, each garment telling a story of overcoming darkness. Holly's name became synonymous with both creativity and compassion, her collections a testament to the power of fashion as an art form capable of touching the soul. Years later, Holly received a letter from Eliza, who had continued her own research into Victorian folklore. "The spirits have found peace," she wrote. "Your actions have brought closure not just to Lydia, but to many others whose stories were lost to time. Continue to create, continue to honor the past, and remember the light you bring into the world." Holly framed the letter and hung it in her studio, a constant reminder of her journey and the lessons she had learned. The shadows of Osborne House had been vanquished, but their memory served as a powerful guide. Holly Arnold had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, her legacy forever intertwined with the threads of history and the light of the future. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.